unhinged, we ignite. Positivity shining bright. Reptiles, exalt, unite. Untamed, unhinged in the night. Big Flex and Chris spreading the vibe. Eric and the mad scientist, David by my side. Untamed, unhinged, talking reptiles all day. Positivity's our topic in every single way. Untamed, unhinged, we ignite. Positivity shining bright. Reptiles, exalt, unite. Untamed, unhinged in the night. Untamed, unhinged, we ignite. Positivity shining bright. Reptiles, exalt, unite. Untamed, unhinged in the night. Big Flex and Chris spreading the vibe. Eric and the mad scientist, David by my side. Untamed, unhinged, talking reptiles all day. Positivity's our topic in every single way. You will start with the community's voice, spreading love and knowledge, making noise by choice. Reptiles and exotics, we stand strong. Untamed, unhinged, singing our song. Untamed, unhinged, we ignite. Positivity shining bright. Reptiles, exotics, all unite. Untamed, unhinged, and the
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Untamed and Unhinged Reptile Podcast. You already know what it is. I'm Big Flexin'. That's Eric, EA Snakes.
What's up,
and our guest today is Craig from Bashcoder Reptiles.
That's right.
I'm excited for this one. It's going to be a good one. What's up, Danny? Let's give a shout out to the people in the chat. What's up, JS? James from JS Exotics. We got John from Arc Adventures, Emily from SR Exotics. We got Fred. What's up, Fred? Always here, showing love. We got Nick the Reptile. And then Craig, and then, Danny and everybody else. That'll come in a little later.
What's up, everybody?
But before we go on, dude, anything on USR?
Yeah. They're trying to make they're amending the Animal Welfare Act. Representative Betty McCollum. Definitely go check out USARC's website. It's definitely an interesting topic. It involves the USDA. And also, if you're not a USARC member, definitely sign up, become a member. USARC and USARC Florida.
Definitely. Hell yeah. Sign up, become a member. Go support USARC. They do a lot for us. They fight for us and everything. I think with that it. Oh, you know what? We got to do the sponsors real quick. I always forget the sponsors. Let's do the sponsors. Bro, I keep forgetting I gotta redo that intro, that sponsorship. Can I drop the sponsor? Anyways, let's bring out Craig.
What's up,
How's
Craig?
it going, guys?
What's going on? Did you see the intro?
I did see the intro.
What do you think?
Digging it.
I like it.
Mike's work on the audio,
On the song.
right?
The song. Yeah.
I love it. It's great.
Mike did the song. Nikki and Kurt did the video intro.
That's perfect. I love it.
I like the way they did everything. But yeah, that being said, I'm gonna go professional. I'm trying to make the backdrop a little bit. I gotta redo it again. I gotta start over.
I hear you.
But yeah. So go ahead and tell us about yourself, Craig.
Yeah, I'm Craig Hansen from Bashcoder Reptiles, and I've been doing this about 4 years. And I keep and breed about a dozen species of reptiles, boas, pythons, several different species of pythons, several different species of boas, short tails, carpets, stuff like that. Do some videos on Instagram and YouTube. Got a little podcast going where we're just only have a couple episodes out, and just having fun.
Oh yeah, let's talk about your podcast. It's the Reptile Workshop, correct?
Yeah.
So what do you got coming out on that? What's new?
We've got a new episode premiering Monday at 5 p.m. Central, and it is called the Extreme media makeover episode, and we had a contest where we had a whole bunch of people sign up for the contest, and they answered some questions about their business, about their collection. We got to look at their branding, got to look at their socials, and chose a winner. And that winner is Nathaniel from the Real McCoy Exotics. And so the great guy. The episode, we recorded it a couple weeks ago, and I'm just finishing the editing now. We have Steven from Leviathan Snakes. We have Mike from Herp Collectors, and we have Dave Space Laser doing a logo where he designs a logo during the show. So you see the logo go from sketch to completed by the end of the show. And everybody's just doing brain dumps about media, marketing, social media, YouTube. It's a pretty great episode. Hope you enjoy it when you see it.
I can't wait to see it. Actually, I want to see it because I actually entered that contest as well.
Oh, yeah. You just didn't bribe us enough. That's what it was.
Yeah, I think Eric did too.
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
Oh, I thought you did.
I saw everything that they were providing, and I was like, wow.
Hey, take over. I'm getting a phone call real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. That is one of the most in-depth, I don't even know what you'd call it, like prize combinations that somebody in the hobby could definitely use. And I didn't think I was that far ahead to take advantage of all that sort of stuff. So I'm definitely happy for the winner.
Yeah, man, he was really in the sweet spot, and we had a lot of names you would know. Some were a little too far along, some weren't far along enough, and man, Nate was just right at the sweet spot. So it's a good episode, a lot of good information dropping, and those are the kind of prizes we can give. I mean, he did get a year of Canva Pro for free, so that's worth about $120, but information and knowledge is really when we can bring in mentors like Steven and Mike, that's the real prize. And the cool thing is that we all get to watch it happen, so we all get the knowledge too. So really, really thankful that those guys came in and helped us out.
Can you repeat what is his social again? His IG, if you know. Do you know it on top of your head?
Yeah, it's I think it's TRM Exotics.
Okay. I'm gonna definitely check him out after this.
He's also got a YouTube. He's been less active on YouTube lately.
I'm gonna check that out as well.
Yeah. The idea for the show, the idea for the Reptile Workshop was we wanted to do something a little different. We didn't want to do something every week. I'm really busy. Wanted to do something like more once a month. And we wanted it to be a project. So the concept is every episode is a project. And we take the project from start to finish in 1 hour. And we define project a number of different ways, but it basically is a way of saying it's a topical format.
So I was going to ask you about marketing and branding out, because you said something on Trap Talk where you said that they didn't need a logo to brand out or something like that.
Yeah, I think what I said was maybe job one isn't a logo. Like when you decide you want to do this, maybe the logo isn't job one. Focus on getting your animals right, your husbandry right, and then think about your branding, because it really you want to have some things that you can share pictures of, right? And so you want to be able to share your story. Well, your story is all about your animals, and so I think personally it's better to put the animals get your collection going, and then brand yourself. However, I do believe you ought to get out early with your brand, like before you're selling, stuff like that. But maybe not job one.
Yeah, because let me see. When I came out in 2018, I already had a logo. I had a logo. I started putting it on shirts. I started putting it on stickers. I only had 2 snakes, 2 ball pythons mainly,
There you go.
right?
Well, nothing
So
wrong with that.
I started branding myself out first before I even produced babies, and then I made calico babies, like banana calico,
Nice.
head ghost, head pipe babies, and that was the only clutch because the other ones were infertile eggs, slugged out, kind of hurt, but 9 eggs infertile, damn, you know.
Oh, I had one of those this year. I had a 15 egg clutch. 9 of them were slugs. And of the 6, 5 of them went bad, and the 6th didn't make it.
Oh,
That's a heartbreaking clutch.
what was that? What was that pair? Yeah, Perry. Excuse me.
It was it was sort of a Mardi Gras pairing with a couple of hets. It wasn't a huge deal, but the female was just a super yellow belly ivory.
Okay.
And she's huge. She's like 4,000 grams, 4,500 grams or something crazy.
Yeah, I got one that's by a albino female. She's 4,300 grams. She's thick.
Yeah. So
and she's still slugged out, which is crazy.
Yeah. So the male was just a first-time male, and just didn't have it in him. He just, I think it's a lot to ask of a small young male to pair up to a giant female and still, get all those eggs fertilized. So I think I should have put a more mature male in with her.
I wonder if that would work though, because it was my banana. So I was trying to make with the albino female because she was head fine, he's head fine. So I was just trying to move out the pie. But he made the clutch already. I guess he just couldn't do it with her. I don't know.
Who knows?
Which is weird though. But I wanted to ask too, like, do you think like branding out would help increase income for the business, before you can make a profit on selling snakes?
Yeah, because I think it helps build trust. So if you mean by branding out, like putting out content,
be anything really.
Yeah, appearing on shows like this, anything, going and vending at shows, really paying your dues at some of these smaller shows to get started. Anything you can do to get your name out there will help with brand recognition. And I think people are looking for people to trust, but they're looking for names they know, I think. So that's where it can help. It doesn't help now, of course. It helps down the line.
So I know on MJ's too, you were saying you had a business degree.
So I minored in business. I was in the music business before this. And then after the music business, I went into, I started a business, sold it to a public company, went to work with that company for about 15 years. And now I left that company, and now I have a private consulting practice. So I've got a lot of business experience. I've started and sold a business and founded a lot of businesses while I was at this other company.
So do you use your skills with the reptiles?
Every day.
Like your business skills with reptiles is what I mean. Sorry.
Yeah. And let me tell you, it's difficult to do it with reptiles. It's difficult to approach reptiles as a business because it's also our passion, it's our hobby. And so, you know, someone was telling me the other day that it's easy to go from one, who was it? I think it was, I was talking with Flawless, and he was saying that we like to switch back and forth. So when things are going bad, we like to go into hobby mode.
Mhm.
And when things are going good, we like to say, yeah, it's a business and everything. One of my reels, I talk about how to know your costs. So one of the things I do with my business training is to really try to know my per animal per year cost. So if someone tries to tell me this is a free snake, I can go, well, no, that's $159 a year snake, because I have to feed it, I have to cage it, I have to, you know, care for it. I've got vets, I've got supplies, I've got substrate, I've got labor. I have staff that helps me because I'm a pretty busy guy. So I have people that come in and help me with the animals. And so I really approach cost seriously. And even if you're not making sales yet, that's something you can start doing as a business discipline, is saying, you know, what are my real costs? And then factor in your time, because your time's worth something too, right? There's this concept in business called an opportunity cost. And the opportunity cost of something is, if I buy a sandwich and eat that for lunch, that cost me the potential pizza I could have had. It's sort of like,
Okay.
the opportunity cost is the thing you could have done but didn't. And so when you're factoring in your time, if you could be working at another job, at a part-time job or a second job or something like that, and making money, that's the cost you should be baking into your cost analysis for your operation. Your time's worth something, is what I'm trying to say.
And how do you get a number for that cost? Like, I'm trying to.
Yeah, there's a number of ways to do it. I actually have, hey Tim, I actually have employees, so I have an actual cost that I can, you know, split up among my animals. And but with your time, when you, for yourself or for myself, it's whatever I would make in my other company, that if I'd have just worked overtime, I could have made that money. That's the cost of my time that I invested into the business. Anna, Fred.
What's up, Daniel?
I guess it's how much you value your time.
Exactly.
How much opportunity for other income sources would you be doing during that time?
Yeah, pencil something in. Pencil in minimum wage, whatever you want to pencil in. Just put something in there so that your time is being accounted for. Now,
okay, that's what you're saying.
You know what I mean? I mean, like social media and stuff. That's just like, I wouldn't bill your company for doom scrolling, you know, on Instagram, you know, but
like, I heard if your LLC, that you could get that back at the end if you're paying for apps to do your social media, correct or no? Am I wrong?
You can deduct it from your taxes. So once you start making income, having these deductions are very important. But even before you start having income, you know, start an LLC right away so that you can start showing costs, like going to shows. You know, if you're going to go up to Tinley and travel to Tinley so you can get all this market experience and meet all these breeders and network, stuff like that, show that as a business expense. So then once you start raking in the money, the IRS doesn't come to you and say, well, what have you been doing for the last 5 years? You know, and you can show them what you've been doing. Yeah.
So I know you know a lot about business. So why isn't LLC good, first of all? And like, let's say your business doesn't make any money. What happens at the end of the year?
Nothing. basically.
You don't get taxed or nothing.
No, you only get taxed on your profits, you know? And so the profits, of course, is your revenue minus your expenses. I don't necessarily think that the LLC is as necessary as you at least need. You can start your own business without an LLC. LLCs just give you a little bit more protection if someone were to come after you for something, you know? And we sell animals that can bite people and stuff like that. And, you know, I think it kind of makes sense to cover your liabilities as much as you can. It's not insurance, you know, but it limits your liability a little bit. But honestly, you could start as just a regular old self-employed business and file a Schedule C on your tax returns, which is your profit and loss from a business. But an LLC is a better way to go. But you don't necessarily have to have an LLC, but because I really think it's the best advice to give people to get an LLC.
So both. And then, okay, so my next question is, you have a AV club, like Patreon dropping, or is it already dropped?
It's not a Patreon. I just sort of treat it as if it were a Patreon. It's just an Instagram chat. And we call it the AV Club. And this is where, you know, I have an audio background. I used to make records. And it's a place where we can talk about microphones, cameras, learning how to edit videos, learning how to make your social media work better for you. But it's mostly about gear and software. And so I help people choose the right equipment to buy for them, help people learn how to edit their videos. Nick was talking about this earlier. Nick, last night I did a Zoom call just for our Instagram chat last night, where I did some of the editing of the Reptile Workshop in the Zoom call. And so that's available to members of the group, sort of like you would do for a Patreon, but it's free and it's just the Instagram group.
Man, I'm definitely gonna do maybe for that after this.
Yeah,
Sure.
Anybody who wants to, that's watching this or watching the replay, just hit me up on Instagram, Bashcoder, if you want to join the chat and come on. We only have one rule with everything I do, and that is don't be a hemipene. No, other than that, come on.
That's funny. I like that. Don't be a hemipene.
Yeah.
You should make a shirt called that.
We're making a "Don't Be a Hemipene" shirt. I used it.
That's awesome.
I used it in a couple of videos, and people went, "Oh man, if you make that into a shirt,
I'll buy that." Yep, for sure. I'm definitely getting one of them. I don't even have a Bashcoder Reptile. I know. I don't even think you have a merch link, do you?
I have shirts that I just did my first run of 100 shirts, and so I put out a pre-order. I need to fulfill on all these now, so we just got them in, and so yeah, so we selling shirts for $25 or something. But I don't have hats yet.
I'm trying to see how hats. I definitely need a hat because I'm a hat wearer guy.
Me too.
Like I collect them. Like no lie, I have a whole thing full of hats. Awesome. In the room. So I even have one from Irresistible Balls, Red Onion. There's a bunch of others, but yeah. Oh, of course, Reptile Crew, the sponsor. And I wear it though. Right now, I'm just wearing my shirt.
Right on. I see.
But
yeah, so I hadn't had shirts or any merch or anything like that until just last month.
Oh yeah, and Banner. Sorry, Craig. Banner's dropping the shirt too. The one with the Wiz Tank crew.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. So yeah, if you want a shirt, go hit a Banner. Just give her a little shout out there. So So how many pairings are you expecting this year? How many clutches are you expecting this year?
Small, probably. I was thinking maybe a dozen, but probably only about 8 or 9. Next year is when everybody comes up to size. I could have done more pairings this year, but it's just been the last 2 years have just been rough, busy for me, and so I really haven't focused on pairing. Meanwhile, most of my stock is coming up to size anyway. And a lot of the stuff I could have paired just wouldn't make sense in this market and this economy to pair. So I just didn't. But a lot of stuff next year, maybe 25, 30 next year, depending on, I could do more if I wanted to, but it'll be a game time decision whether I do 20, 25, 30, or 40. But I could do up to 40, but I don't think I will next year.
Okay. So I have another question for you, and this is about ball pythons, of course. I'm going to give you a scenario.
Yep.
I did this scenario last night on Retake Rundown as well.
Cool.
So let's say this person has 50 ball pythons and another 50 babies, and he's trying to get out of the hobby, out of the community. It's like dropping. Do you think the economy is better or worse now than it was during COVID?
I mean, to talk to people who were having babies during COVID, they were hatching out clutches. It was a pretty great time for the industry. A lot of people had, government money. They had lower expenses because a lot of people were working from home. I know it was a time of hardship for a lot of people, but there was another group of people that really had it easy, easier than normal. We had, like, the video game industry went crazy because people were home, entertainment companies went crazy because people were just, binging.
Watching movies, yeah.
Yeah. And I know that this industry had a big bubble during that period of time. I think people, and the economy for ball python breeders has taken a big hit. The values, when I talk to big breeders, kind of off the record, breeders are telling me that the value of their animals have dropped by as much as 75%, over the past year.
That's crazy.
However, that's the market value right now. The value is, these are long-term investments, right? Some of these animals will live, longer than I will, and, but the most, what I really think is going to happen, and I said this on Trap Talk, is that I think over the next 5 years, prices on average will double. Like, the average price of a ball python will double over 5 years. What does that mean? Well, that means, roughly 20% a year recovery. Because what ended up happening was a ton of people got in, made a ton of supply with the same demand. And then when the economy really started tanking and inflation really started hitting, the demand wasn't the same. So you had a lower demand with a higher supply. And we all saw the tens of thousands of, snakes listed on Morph Market. Hey, Leica, what's up? So, but I think most people that I'm talking to is saying that things are improving, and they're looking for the next 2-3 years to really bounce back. If someone's got 50, in your scenario, if someone's got 50 ball pythons and they've bred 50 babies and they're getting out, that tells me they've got the wrong pythons. Like, you look at the people that are getting out, honestly, that have got out over the past several months, and every month there's more,
Yeah, that's why I brought it up, because I've noticed lately a lot of people are just dropping, getting out, whether it be geckos, whether it be ball pythons. I've seen it all over the board, pretty much.
Yeah. So there's a couple factors. First, what expectations did they have? Did they think they could get in and get rich quick?
I'm thinking that's what they thought. They thought they were going to get rich quick, and when they came in, they realized how hard it was. That you actually have to, handle these animals, work with these animals,
Yeah.
keep up with cleaning.
Yeah. Did they think they would just sort of not need any work? Did they focus on the snakes and not focus on the fact that they need to make feeders? And that it's, buying other people's rodents is not a long-term plan, but rather a short-term stopgap for most people. I mean, if you're really getting serious in this business, I don't know anyone who says you don't have to. Well, I know a couple people, but most people say you need to raise your own rodents. Just the economics of it. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I can see that. Like right now, all my snakes take frozen thaw.
Yep, mine as well.
Like right now, I don't need to, but I'm thinking maybe later down the line when I do breed and have more babies, I might have to, because not all those babies are gonna take frozen thaw right off the rip.
I think what Craig is talking about, though, if we circle back, if you look at it from like a business standpoint, your expenses in rats throughout the year is thousands and thousands of dollars, and if you're producing your own food, I mean rats, it's significantly less expenses as far as just going out and buying rats.
Even with
in my
opinion,
because I don't breed rats. That's
no, but I think you're right. I mean, there's a couple factors. There's the economics. Okay. There's the having what you need. For ball pythons specifically. With other species, you can do more frozen thawed. But with ball pythons, you do it at scale, you're going to do better with live feeders. Doesn't mean all of them have to take live, but it also doesn't mean frozen thawed could be your own frozen thawed, like we do that. So we give I have other species that don't need live, and I'd rather not give them live, that I either do fresh killed or frozen thawed, but the frozen thawed animals are ones I raised,
Wait,
so
yeah, you do frozen thawed and live?
Well, they're my own frozen thawed, but not for ball pythons, but for my boas, for carpet pythons, they'll eat anything. For short tails, they'll eat anything. They don't care. My boas don't care. So the first question for that person who wants to get out is, what were your expectations? Second, what does your collection look like? And just to be honest, when I see most of the collections that go up for sale, when I see the list, I'm like, oh, yeah, I see why you're getting out. Yeah, because they didn't have any mentors telling them where the market was going. And,
I'm like, or they did, and that mentor was just like, buy this, buy that, buy this, buy that.
Yes, I'll say good mentors, and that's why I'm all, so I think people, there's a third reason that people get out, and I'm always reminded of this by people when I forget to say it. And that is, the other reason people get out is because just life happens, and, they have to move, they have to go do something else. Their job needs them to go somewhere else where they can't do it. Divorce, whatever. There's lots of things that happen in life, babies, that just sort of make it so that, you just can't do it anymore. So combination of life happening, unmet, unrealistic expectations, and collections that were really not built to win, are why I think, but a lot of people just don't love it. They just, this to do this at scale, to have a few ball pythons is one thing, but to do this at scale, if you're going to raise hundreds of these things, you got to love it. I mean, it's hard work, and
You're gonna tell me.
you know, it's not like, you know. Well,
There you go. Yeah.
yeah. Well, Will, I would suggest, you know, though, if you wanted to make money at it, I think it is possible. I would disagree with you a little bit. I do agree with on the passion part, but I think, you know, like, I've done the numbers and I just don't see that it's possible to make money selling $50 snakes. It's just not, unless your time is free and you have an infinite amount of time. And even then, you know, there are costs. Like, these racks are not cheap.
One of the sponsors there
Not at
now.
all. Not at all.
Hey, Nikki. And Kurt. Like, it's, I just challenge anyone to show me a business plan with a spreadsheet and forecasts that show you making money selling $50 animals. So if your collection would only make $50 to $100 an animal, and your goal was to make money. Now, if your goal is just to sell pets to people and increase the joy of whatever, and that's your goal, that's fine, but just don't expect to make money doing it. There's just no way to make that work. You'll hear some people say, man, if I could raise $1,000 snakes, I'd, you know, have $100,000. Or no, you wouldn't. You'd be broke trying to raise 1,000 snakes, trying to hatch out 1,000 snakes. You'd be broke. And that 100,000, even if you sold them all, even if you could find someone to buy all these wholesale quality animals, even if you could find someone to buy them, which is a big if, like, I don't know anybody who could, then, you know, it just, you know what I mean? You'd be broke.
I agree. I agree with you. So this brings a two-part question for you.
Yep.
The first part is, would you recommend, like, branching out into other species in order to profit? And then my second part is, what responsibilities can breeders do to assist customers in buying the right snakes for them?
Okay. So the first thing, other species. I recommend people do it for two reasons. First, the joy of it. I mean, it's just, there are species out there that if you had an experience keeping them, they might just really float your boat. Like, for me, that's short-tailed pythons and Dumeral's boas. Those are my favorite. And the reason that's strategically a good idea is it's hard when your business gets to where you're ready to take center stage and you're ready for the NARBCs and you're ready for the Tinleys, you know, and you're ready for, you know, Bob's new show, Southeast Reptile Expo, and you're ready for the All-American. And when you're ready for all that, and all you have is ball pythons, it's difficult to get a table at these shows. But if you have more, because these shows are turning down, even Bob, who's one of us, Bob Vu, he's one of us. He's a ball python breeder. But he understands what a reptile show needs to be, and it can't just be all ball pythons, you know?
Agreed.
So he said no to a lot of ball python breeders for last weekend's show.
Dang.
But if you have short tails, if you have boas, if you have colubrids, if you have geckos, if you have other stuff, then you're not just another ball python breeder, and you have more to offer the general public in a community at a reptile show. So I think it's good to diversify a bit for two reasons: business reasons, not because other than maybe Amazon basin emerald tree boas, or Boland's pythons or something like that there's not a lot more money to be made in other species, but there are a lot of opportunities for you, and it can get you in the door at a lot of shows that you wouldn't be able to get into otherwise. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Oh, good answer.
Not necessarily more profitable, but I would say, I used to be a retailer in my last gig, and I was a retail executive, and we had this concept of a market or a merchandise mix. Okay. So you've got most stores, if you go in, they've got something that hits every budget, and it's good to have some and different interests. And so it's good to have that on your table, other stuff. As to your other question about what was the other part about informing customers?
Yeah, what responsibilities can breeders do to assist customers in buying the right snakes for them?
Yeah, this has been kind of I've been giving this a lot of thought, because it's very easy, and I've done a few shows now, and I've sold some animals, and it's very easy to just say whatever you need to say to make a sale. I think what's more important is setting your customers up for success. And that means like asking questions and engaging your customers. You can't do this sitting behind your table with arms folded and wait. You can't, on your phone. You can't, you can't, I'll get to Will's in a second there. You have to ask your customers what they want. They just want a pet? Do they have, if they want a pet, do they have favorite looks on your table? What price point are they looking at? If they don't want to be, do they ever want to be a breeder? That's part of the pet group. Do you want to ever breed? Okay. So if that person wants to breed and you're selling them a normal, maybe that's not a great animal to put them in.
100%.
If the person is a breeder, then I think you've got a much higher responsibility. If that is an aspiring breeder and they definitely want to breed, or they're currently trying to breed as a business, I think there's a real responsibility on us as sellers to set them up for success and not just sell them our junk that we can't get rid of. I know these are precious, wonderful animals that we love. Don't get offended if I say junk, chat, but it's like, we all have byproducts, the stuff we really want to make, and then there's the stuff we end up with in terms of the genes. Okay. So it's very easy to sort of say, man, look at this awesome snake, and boy, down the line, it could really make you this, when really the odds of it making you that are really low. And so, yeah, I think we need to engage the customers, and we want them to do well so they'll come back to us for more. And we want to be on the cutting edge so they'll come back to us for more. Does that make sense?
100%. And you should be, as I think, in my opinion, as someone selling, you should be asking these questions, with like a smile. You should be just figuring out the customer, what they want or what their goals are, and then trying to help them the best way possible. And that way, just like you said, they'll come back in the future because they remember that positive experience, and the animal that you probably gave them set them up. I don't know. I'm not going to give you a timeline, but set them up right for the future.
If you're a beginning breeder and you've got sort of beginning breeder animals, and you are vending your first show, and someone comes up to you and says, I'm just getting into this, but I want to breed high-end animals. and you show them, like Genetics 101 just said, here's a pastel het clown. That'll do it. You know, what you really should do is say, here, let me introduce you to a buddy of mine, and walk over to another table and show him the fire that, you know, that he should be investing in if that's his goal. Right.
Agreed.
And let me answer this question from Will. He says, are you meaning not evolving from the startup collection? Yeah. You know, like, I think a lot of times, what do we think? We think, well, if I buy a project, if I buy 1.2 or 1.3 of something, okay, and let's say a real simplistic view. Let's say you buy a male for $1,000 and you buy 3 females for $1,000. You've got $4,000 in there, and you've calculated, you think that it's going to make, each clutch is going to make you 6 $1,000 animals. So you think when these guys raise up, you're going to make 18,000 because you bought them for 1,000. They're worth 1,000. You know, that those pairings, you're going to put in 4, and it's going to make you 6 times 3, 18,000. Right? That's not how it's going to happen. And that's a very simplistic. These animals depreciate in value over time. Now, they make babies, which is great. So that overcomes that, right?
Right.
But you're and that's step 1. Step 2 is you're not going to breed these animals. It's not like, man, I bought these animals, I'm now going to get $18,000 a year for 20 years because they live for 20 years. Your collection has to evolve, and that's what Will is getting at here. Your collection has to evolve. You have to upgrade your collection. You have to stay with the trends so that your customers can stay with you and still stay with the trends. See what I mean?
100%. I kind of have an issue with that because I have some, I guess you would call it trimming the fat in a business standpoint.
Yeah.
But I don't have that amount of animals yet, or I'd consider myself a business. So these, like, I have 4 adult breeder females that are now just basically pets because of, you know, just not worth breeding at this time because I have, you know, whatever, had them for 10 years. But those are the costs that you have to, like, I'm okay eating whatever cost because those are now animals that I just own. You know, whatever amount of money I'm going to get, it's not going to equal what I feel for those animals for that amount of time. You know what I mean?
I do. But they were also taught you how to raise ball pythons.
Correct. Very correct.
You know, and so they taught you husbandry. They taught you the care. You learned what they like, what they don't like. You learned
Gave
how
me
to
some
keep
nice
them.
kisses as well.
See, but you had a good mentor. My mentor was like, buy that, buy this, you need that. This makes that, you know. So he like set me up. So I have everything to make, like panda pies, urban camels.
Those are nice stuff.
Yeah, but I didn't do the panda pies first of all. So the urban camels, I think she is thick, so we're hoping for clutch.
Will asks another good question. How about asking this question? Do you have a problem feeding deceased rodents to your pet? Yeah, like this is how I got into this. Was my daughter said, I want snakes. And I didn't realize she was just messing with me and Mom, you know. I thought, you know, she was just messing with us. Or I didn't know she was messing with us. I took her seriously. So I got into snakes and I got her a snake and she was all excited. And then she said, what does it eat? And she was not willing to feed that snake any kind of rodent, living or dead. And if the rodent was living, she didn't want to make it dead. And so it was, that's a great question to ask, you know, for the pets. You know, it's more of a question to address with the parents sometimes if the kids are really little. But But yeah, I think there are people that don't think about that.
That's true. Yeah, because like I don't feed deceased rodents or rodents that have like that look sick.
Right.
I definitely don't feed that stuff to my snake because I accidentally did that one time, and I came back and checked on the snake and his belly blew up.
Yeah, I just meant like, I think he was meaning like frozen thawed or fresh killed.
Oh, well,
You know.
I thought you were talking about like something wrong with them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bad idea. I think I don't, don't feed off a dead animal, and don't one that's died in their cage or something like that. Yeah. But back to this other issue, I think, this community needs each other. The higher you go in this game, the more your customers will be other breeders. So when you start out, you might just be selling to pet people, and then more breeders, and then more breeders. And then as your collection evolves, and as you invest in higher quality morphs, more breeders are going to be interested in what you have because they want to make those animals too. And then you look at some of the biggest breeders and some of the most high-end breeders, and I bet you all of their customers, are breeders, or 90%, and so we need each other. Every relationship you make with another breeder is very important for that reason. And so because we need each other, we need to be in community, and we need to do this together. And I love that. I see Wiz in the chat, and I love what he's doing. I love what Terrence Keys Constrictors is doing to build the love train and just positivity. And Mike from Herb Collectors, same thing. Positivity in community, so that we're all helping each other win. The old saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. The last thing we need right now is a race to the bottom. And the last thing we need right now is selling animals to people that are going to have them be the next person that leaves the hobby.
Agreed.
Great point. Great point.
So Banner has a good question here. So it says, so is it a bad train of thought to focus on being a breeder? Or
not at all.
Breeder. Yeah.
Not at all, Ben. I think that's a great goal, because I think you're really, what's a great example of a breeder's breeder? You'd say Ozzy would be a great example of a breeder's breeder. I'm sure there's a lot of, high-end pet clients of his too, but they're high-end pet clients. I think that's a great goal. Nothing wrong with that at all. So
I'm like, with that being said, then Craig, are you like, so you work with ball pythons, so are you trying to be like Babu and the next Kaboka, or are you just trying to do what you want to do at this point?
Honestly, I think the best thing I think if we look at that, if we look at trying to do that, if that's our goal, we'll get discouraged. Because he's always going to be ahead of me, like always. And if that's the kind of thing that in what he does, and if doing what he does, if your goal is to do what he does, then you'll always be behind. First, you're not him, so strike one. Second, he's got years and years of experience and a lot more capital and all this stuff. And so I think the goal should be to carve out your own path, find your own lane, be as big as you want to be. Find a business plan that gets you to where, if it's a business, find a business plan that has you breeding the number and the value of the animals you want to do at the quantity you want to do, and that you can do and still sustain it as a business. I don't think, however, if you want to say Bob Vu supplies every strata of the business, of the industry, with a great product, and I want to be that, that's attainable. Right? That's attainable.
Agreed.
But I think in terms of the but that's a hard question. It's easier to go and say, I want to be him, because that's been done before. But we have to blaze our own trail, right? And find our own lanes, which means finding the morphs we like. And not just the ones, not just the 4 or 5 that are always the top 5 trending ones. And that takes time. It takes risk. You got to put money in on animals that you may change your mind on later. There's risk. And it takes dedication, a lot of work. There's no easy money in this. It's, if you want to do it as a business, there's no easy money. But there is a lot of fulfillment, and for people who really want to kick ass, there can be a really good income.
And a lot of the bigger people have been doing it for so long that, you know, they've just been successful by staying with it and upgrading their stuff slowly but surely. And then, like you said, they do provide every level, from breeders to pet keepers. They have everything, and they make sure they do. So they,
No, absolutely. I was just agreeing with you. Sorry to interrupt.
My bad. I thought you was different.
Oh, I was like, I thought he was going to disagree too. I was like, because I heard you say no. I was like, oh. So
no,
with
I totally agree.
I'm like, with that being said, do you feel like the ball python community is the place to be? You know, since people are still dropping out, new people are coming in, and of course you see crazy stuff that they do, like on memes and stuff. Like, do you feel like it is a place to be?
I've been so surprised at the friends I've made in this effort. You know, I've made some of the best friends of my life doing this. Nikki and Kurt, you know, probably my best friends in the world. And I'm really surprised by the people I've met. And I've heard of other breeding communities with other species of animals that are not as good as this. But I find the ball python community to be extremely welcoming, very helpful, very, very much we're in this together. And so I really do believe this community is the place to be. We don't all have to approach it as a business. I think there's a very few people that actually do this full time as a comparison to the number of breeders there are, and that's fine. Yeah, Nikki did a great reel on this. Thank you for sharing that, Nikki. She did a great reel on that Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, I think I reposted that too.
Yeah, me too.
It's a real thing,
isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And like, you don't know it's a real thing until you hit it, and then I don't know. It's
it's
you just
not
have
if,
to.
it's when.
Like, yeah, exactly.
You have to what, Eric?
You have to recognize when it's happening, because I guess, like, we all refer to as burnout with the reptiles, but burnout can be with anything.
Podcasting.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I'll give you an example. Even with gaming right now, I can't find a game that I'm in for more than 20 minutes because I think I'm burnt out, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to recognize when that happens, and then sort of, because your care for the animals can never stop. you have to recognize, is this too much? And if it is, then things need to be taken care of. But you have to recognize that there might be an issue.
So this brings up a good question, Eric. I'm glad you said this because I don't know why I just brought this to my mind. So, with working with reptiles, do you feel like it takes a toll on ones that are married and they do it as a couple? Do you think, you know, it affects them mentally? Like they're both burned out, or like one's burned out but the other one's not?
I think the reason to do this in community in general, whether it's marriage or whether it's friends or whether you're business partners with someone, the reason to do it in community is so that when you're down, you've got other people around you that are up. And yeah, my wife is not involved in reptiles, but she 100% is involved in supporting me in the reptiles. You know, like she was 100% involved when I went to Atlanta last weekend and hung out at the Southeast Reptile Expo and did live streaming with Keys. She was 100% involved because she took care of the chickens. She took care of making sure that my help was in, taking care of the snakes and the rats. She was the one encouraging me to go, you know, and so my wife is not one that ever, shout out to Sophia. She's the one that saw what it did in me when I got into it and how it helped me through a really dark time. Because you're right, Eric, you can't stop taking care of these animals. You don't get time off. You know,
Right.
they need you. So there's a lot at stake here with burnout, you know. So yeah, so like Nikki, she's my burnout buddy, and if we, you know, she gets to where she's feeling like, I don't know, man, if I can do this anymore, then I say, come on, you know, let's talk it through, and let's look at the facts, and then the facts encourage her, and she does the same for me. Kurt does it too.
That's good though. I like Nikki and Kurt. I love them to death.
They're the best.
Because I always reach out to them too, and like they always check in. Sometimes they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'll be like, "Hanging in there." You know, I'm always just like hanging in there. But so I'm always say I'm hanging in there. But when I post stuff, I'm all about like pushing that positivity. So behind the scenes, nobody sees that. You know what I'm going through.
No
I
doubt.
try to keep that away from what I'm doing. Like I don't want that to affect what I'm talking about. And it's hard because sometimes we preach so much and we don't even follow our own or what we say. You know what I mean? So like, let's say I say something, I give somebody advice, but I don't take my own advice. It's crazy. It's crazy. We don't take our own advice.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah, it's just been rough. It's just been rough. I do get burnt out. I'm not gonna lie, I do get burnt out with like the reels, the flyers. And then of course I'm doing a fitness podcast as well. So it takes a lot. It does. It takes a lot.
Yeah, you are doing a lot.
And then I got the retake rundown too. So I got like 3 podcasts.
You'd be surprised what a few words of encouragement from somebody else can do for your day, right?
Absolutely.
It goes a long way. It does. It goes a long way. It makes you feel good.
Hey, Chris, and you know you can hit me up too if you're ever feeling like that. I always say that stuff to you.
But you know, it usually takes the outside person coming in. It's like, here's the thing: when we get down, we're not in a place where we're going to go seek help. Sometimes it just takes people poking at us and saying, "Hey, how's it going?" And so, you know, and that's the positivity I think that's in the industry. I remember Brian from Samson Snakeatorium once talked to me about toxic positivity, and that's sort of like this. hey, everything's fine, nothing's bad, everything's, every animal's fire,
It's like the meme where like the cartoon character sitting in the chair in the middle of the room, he's smiling and everything's burning around him.
yeah, and he's like, everything's okay,
I'm like, what?
But yeah,
That's funny.
Here's the question of whether or not something's a good community. Would you invite a friend you just met to join? And if you would, because of your experience with the community, and ultimately that's what we're doing at shows, right? We're making friends, inviting them to join our community. And not just shows, also on Morph Market and other places. You can do this with e-commerce as well. But I know what you mean when it comes to like social media burnout. Like being a content creator can be a treadmill, because I got to think of something to say. Is it good enough to say? Then I got to write it down. Oh, I hate it. Let me think of something else to say.
Yeah.
And then, let me try to record it. Oh, that sucked. Let me do another thing, and sometimes it's easy, because you're just like, boom, I got an idea. Let's go with it. But that's why, for instance, for my podcast, the reason I only did it once per month is because I edit it, and that is hard. If folks are watching, wondering how to get into podcasting, do a live show like this, because it is a lot. It takes a lot less of your time after the recording. You can just go live, and there it is.
Just give them the raw footage. Just be genuine, transparent.
Yep.
I know a lot of people like to go back and edit, like, take that out, take this out. That's not good. But for me, I'm like, I want to get the people the real you. I want them to see who you are for you. And I've always been like that.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's like I'm my history is as a jazz musician, and so that's what jazz is, right? Jazz is what happens,
Mm-hmm.
And but the reason I edit mostly is so I can get certain production value. I'm trying to hit a certain production value where someone takes up this side of the screen and this side, and then they're full screen, and then, titles. And I just love all that stuff. So I'm just shooting for a production value in these videos that are not required if you're going to do like an interview show or something like that, and not required in most cases. I'm just a glutton for punishment. That's all.
See, and that's why I want to join your AV club, because I want to learn how to do that. Is what I want to learn how to do.
Yeah,
that right there. Because I need to learn how to edit. I need to learn how to do this, take out that. Like some stuff I should edit, but I don't.
At Bashcoder on Instagram, just anyone who's watching and wants to join, just send me a DM and I'll add you to the group.
All right, so I got 2 more questions, or 3 more questions for you before we get on out of here. Do you see any expos in the next year like just disappearing?
I hope not. I see kind of the opposite. What I see is, I'm seeing like, Troy from Best Dressed Balls and Bob from Bob's Balls. They're both starting new things that are not just reptiles, they're also plants, and they're finding this affinity group with the, like last weekend we saw just giant pitcher plants, and along with the, normal monsteras and stuff like that, but it's really exotic plants. And it was really refreshing to see both those things together, because some of the best enclosures have great foliage in it, right? So, but I see, I think All American has 4 shows so far. Bob is talking about doing a second one in Georgia for the Southeast Reptile Expo. I think it's growing more than it is contracting. Now, maybe some shows will retool, maybe they'll move around a little bit, but I don't think right now the demand is falling off the cliff for ball pythons. I think maybe there was a time where it did, but I think right now the demand is steady. And the supply seems to be kind of coming under control. I know a lot of the bigger breeders are making a lot fewer clutches than they made in years past. So I hope we keep seeing innovation in these expos. And they're good expos. These are like super regional type expos that Troy and Bob are doing. It's not like we all have our little expos and then we all kind of pack into Tinley, 1 weekend a year, 2 weekends a year, I think it's really going to get distributed and more powerful in certain regions.
I agree. I just wanted to ask that question.
My bad, Chris. No, also adding to what Craig said with the plants, aquatics. I can't wait for fish and shrimp, aquatic plants to get into these shows as well, because I wouldn't have enough time at these shows. Like, it wouldn't be possible to see everything.
Yeah.
But they already got aquatic expos.
Yeah, but not with reptiles, with plants. They have there's a show called Aquashella.
Yeah, that was a good one, I heard.
Yeah.
Which US Arc is at too. They're always there.
Yeah, it's a nice show, but it just doesn't have the aspect of plants and reptiles. It's just more of an aquatic show.
Yeah, but I think the guys that did that show said they didn't want to do like mix fish and reptiles. They want to try to keep that separate.
All right, well, to each his own. I mean,
I know, but
it would be super cool if they did. They'd probably get a bigger crowd too.
Yeah, that would be cool though. Now that I think about it, now that you're saying it, now that I picture it in my head, yeah, it would be pretty cool if they all just did it all under one roof. But yeah. All right. My second question is,
yes, sir.
What'd you think of the podcast so far?
I love it. You guys are easy to talk to. It's great. I'm digging it.
Nice.
Thanks, Nikki. And then my last question is, if you could change one thing in the hobby / industry, what would it be and why?
If I could change one thing in the hobby, does it have to be realistic or can it be unrealistic?
Both. I don't care.
I would like to see the regulatory situation change. Like, I think we're looking at a situation where it's not expanding, everything seems to be restricting people's rights to keep and breed certain types of reptiles. Like here in Alabama, whatever the federal government puts on its list of injurious species is illegal here in Alabama. So because in the Everglades, they have a problem with berms, we can't have them in Alabama. And so the regulatory environment I would like to see changed. And I just think that comes with more education, support US Arc. They're doing the education, they're doing the lobbying, but, there's some communities where you can't keep ball pythons because there's some local ordinance in place. So ultimately, the one thing I'd want to change is that.
That's a good point. Not being able to have a ball python in the town you live in, that's kind of crazy to me.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, I heard in New York City you can't have ball pythons or something crazy. Like,
Yeah, I think it was Teggy's too. or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Somewhere.
tegus are not allowed in a lot of places. We can't have tegus here in Alabama either.
And then berms are not allowed in Georgia.
Retics are allowed in Georgia, not in Alabama. I mean, it's just weird.
Yeah.
I think about that sometimes because I live in Florida. Obviously, I can't have retics. But what about super dwarf retics? You know, like
It's the same
I can't
because it's
have
still a
them now.
reticket. It's still a reticulated python. That's why.
It
Exactly.
shouldn't be, but it shouldn't be. And so some people have regulations like it can't be longer than a certain amount. So they raise up this animal and it exceeds that length. They have to get rid of the animal. Or, you know, that's the thing with these regulatory bodies. Do it our way, or we're going to come kill your animals.
Yep.
And so, which is what happened in Florida. So, yeah, I think in order for the business to grow and for the industry to kind of come into its full maturity, I don't think we've seen this come into maturity yet. I think we have seen it, you know, with Morph Market, with, you know, people like Reptile Express, Redline, Ship Your Reptiles. Was a major sea change, like doing e-commerce with this stuff and not on Flora and, you know, or fauna.com and not on whatever kingsnake.com.
Snake, yep.
That was some nasty blogosphere there. That was weird. But the I think the, you know, if the regulatory environment is healthy, then the industry will be healthy.
Yes, sir, Santi. We got you.
That's some serious fire there.
Right?
Jeez.
All right, go
There's
ahead.
monsoon. You missed monsoon.
Oh, I want monsoon. Is there a monsoon pie? Anybody know?
Yeah.
There is? I haven't seen that.
Yeah. Austin has them.
So Craig, I have two questions. One, I saw you were live streaming with Keys on was it Sunday, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
But what did you think of the show overall? Because I wasn't able to go. How'd you like it? How'd you like the venue?
It was.
Did you see anything interesting? Anything caught your eye?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I loved the show. People brought their best stuff, and there were great breeders there. So, like, Bob got all the best breeders to come and support him at this show. Canova was there. I don't even know, does Canova do anything other than Tinley? I don't even think they do shows anymore, you know? So, so he got them, you know, he had Kittinger, you know, we had a lot of just great CD constrictors, Nixon reptiles, you know, we had Chris Hernan was there, you know, it was really professionally run too. There was nothing out of place. Parking was handled. You know, they had people on the back docks waiting to help you load in and load out.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's nice.
Like, Bob understands, after doing over 200 shows in his career, he understands that, you know, getting in and getting out is a major pain point on the breeders and has a major effect on whether or not they enjoyed the show. And so he just took that away. He said, well, I'll just throw a little money at that and it'll work great.
Very fun.
And the food was good. I mean, I saw some amazing animals. Genetic Genesis had some great stuff. Stephen at Conduit Constrictors, Stephen and Steve at Conduit Constrictors had some great stuff. You know, it was really great. And it had Daytona vibes on the hang, because the hangs were great, and all the breeders were excited to be there. But it kind of had Tinley quality.
That's good.
you go to Genetic Genesis and they'd have a $20,000 animal and a $300 animal and a $200 animal and a $5,000 animal. And, it was something there for everybody. So top notch thing. And I definitely want, and I hope they get to 2 a year. I hope they get to 2 a year so we can go back in the spring.
That would be nice. And then my second question, it doesn't necessarily have to be about the reptiles. It could be anything related with the reptiles. What was a problem or a situation that you ran into, and how did you overcome it?
I will say that almost everything I've learned in this hobby has been from making mistakes.
I agree.
Everything. I had a colony collapse in my rodents at one point. And I think how I overcame it was by just focusing on the kind of things that were going wrong, investing in really great equipment, and just committing myself to it. And so that was a big problem. We had and it wasn't a total colony collapse, so I was able to rebuild from it, but it was a rough situation. And but friends helped me and helped provide me with rodents and helped me get back up, and that was great. So the only people who really fail are the ones who quit.
100%.
And my goal in my content and in what I'm doing is trying to make sure that if I've made a mistake and I've learned a lesson from it, that I pass it on to other people. That's sort of the whole thing that keeps me going in the content side. And that helps with burnout, by the way. If you've got kind of a fire in your belly about something and you really want people to know it, it sure makes it a lot easier to do your work,
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Greg, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you know what? I do have one more thing. One positive thing for the viewers watching before we get on out of here.
What do you mean? Like
a positive quote for the viewers watching. I always tell a guest to leave something positive before we leave.
Yeah. Man, just reach out to your fellow keepers and breeders and be supportive. And like Eric was saying, you really don't know what it means to someone to encourage them. Sometimes I've just dropped a note to someone saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about you. I hope you're doing well." And they'll come back and like, "Man, you have no idea how much that just helped me," So yeah, if you want the community to be a certain way, just be that. And for you, it will be that, and the more people who do that, we'll have a great hang, and it'll be a great community, and we'll all move forward together.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. I like that. Now I'm going to say thank you, Craig, for coming on. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day, taking the time, to schedule this in. This was a great episode. I love this episode. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the topics that we talked about as well. Before we go,
great to meet you, Craig, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've learned so much. I think this is the most amount of business that Chris and I have had on the podcast, like business conversation. So I really appreciate it. It taught me a lot.
Well, great. I'm glad.
And go ahead and if you want to plug yourself real quick where people can find you.
Yeah. Bashcoder on YouTube, one word. So youtube.com/@Bashcoder. And then on Instagram @Bashcoder, one word. And so look forward to getting to know you guys better. I really appreciate you having me on. I dig your stuff, dig what you're doing with this podcast. what you're doing with your other podcasts on the Herp Collectors Network, the Retic Rundown, and all of that. And so I really appreciate you guys and what you're doing in the community, and keep it up.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. That means a lot.
Thanks, Craig.
You bet.
Thank you. On that note, guys, y'all already know what time it is. It's time for us to get on out of here. Make sure y'all check on your loved ones. You know, stay positive. Don't put people down. Just keep rising. Let's elevate together, guys. Y'all have a good night. We're out of here.